Hey guys, welcome back to a new video here on the channel, and yesterday I posted on my community tab asking you guys what's your unpopular opinion on a movie / movies, movie franchise, and you came back with some absolute pearlers. Now, I have skimmed over a lot of them. I've tried to react and like to as many as I can. I think there's like 80 something comments, which is just fucking amazing. So I'm going to be reacting to them and checking them out, and also starting a conversation about certain unpopular opinions on movies. Now, also, this is going to be my final video in this apartment, in this study. Chloe and I are moving tomorrow. I'm really excited. I'm going to have a proper setup space instead of like snaking around the study here and doing Chloe's head in with all my shit. We're going to have our creative spaces, separate spaces, which is great. I won't be doing her head in, and I'm also going to have a brand new setup, so I'm looking very forward to that. So tomorrow is going to be a big day, and then Tuesday is Halloween. Okay, so the first unpopular opinion comes from Luke101. I really didn't think the Flash movie was that bad. I thought the third act was a complete mess, and that's where everything fell apart. But the first 2/3 were fun, and Ezra Miller really grew on me. The humor was also genuinely hilarious, made me laugh out loud more than any other recent superhero film. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion at all. Like I found a lot of fun and good in The Flash. I really liked Ezra Miller as the Flash despite all the stupid shit that they have done in their personal life. That's unforgivable, and it was hard to separate the artist from the character, but once I did, I thoroughly enjoyed Ezra's performance. But also at the same time, you have Ben Affleck, you have Michael Keaton, you have so many beautiful elements in this movie, and yes, I agree, the third act was a complete mess, especially with that god-awful CGI and the Colosseum at the end with all those obligatory cameos like Nicolas Cage, Christopher Reeve, Adam West that just had this uncanny valley appearance to him. So I agree, man. Like, again, it's not a perfect film, but I think it was one of the better ones that we had seen in a long time. Next one comes from Benji JGJ. It's like Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo. That's the worst name I've ever heard. Wait, Joey Jojo! Adam Sandler's Waterboy is a feel-good classic and holds up pretty well today. I fucking agree, man. There was that time where Adam Sandler had just absolute bangers back to back. We have Billy Madison, we had Happy Gilmore, The Waterboy, The Wedding Singer, even Little Nicky. My unpopular opinion, Little Nicky doesn't get enough love. I think it's the most bombastic, stupidest, wackiest film, and I absolutely love it. I love the costume design, I love the cameos, I love the concept. Son of the devil has to go to Earth to get his two idiotic brothers back. But for The Waterboy, I still love it. I actually watched it a couple of months ago with Chloe. I even love Farmer Fran in it. Go over there, yo, quarterback, yo, ready, break, back. You got Henry Winkler, you got Kathy Bates. Everyone's just so good. It's just that classic mid-90s Adam Sandler humor. Like, I agree. I think it's more or less Little Nicky that cops a lot of shit. I don't understand why. Next unpopular opinion comes from Arkham Arrow, and they go on to say, Ryan Reynolds was a great Green Lantern, and his suit looked really good and made sense in how they explained it, and Andrew is the best Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the top 3 of best Spider-Man movies. Ooh, that's a lot. Alright, so let's start with Green Lantern. There are good elements in Green Lantern. I do not agree in terms of the suit. I would have loved to have seen a practical suit as opposed to a motion capture suit, CGI elements blended on top, especially that floating mask on Ryan's face and how they changed his eye color. You totally could have done that practically with some contact lenses. In terms of Andrew Garfield portraying Spider-Man, I am so happy he got his renaissance and his second chance in No Way Home alongside Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland. I think he's such a good actor and he doesn't get enough love. And I think it was one of those things where when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, people jumped on the bandwagon and just wanted to hate on him for the sake of hating on him. I don't think the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is entirely great. Like, it has good elements, but at the same time, it just gets very convoluted, bogged down with its characters, much like Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, with too many cooks in the kitchen, but in this case, it was villains. Next one comes from Tom Pollock Jr. 144. Batman Begins is a superior film to The Dark Knight. Ooh. Not knocking The Dark Knight, but Batman Begins is a better paced, more personal, more emotional package. The fact that Rachel smacking Bruce in Begins made our hearts sink, but we laugh when she dies in The Dark Knight is telling. We weren't emotionally connected with the characters in Part 2 as we were in Part 1. It was more about the spectacle than the feel. That's my hot take. Interesting. That is a good point, that when Rachel smacks Bruce in the car before he confronts Falcone in Batman Begins, it's like, ooh, that's tension. But when Rachel's about to die, it's sort of comical. And obviously there is a shift in terms of actresses from Katie Holmes to Maggie Gyllenhaal. I get where you're coming from. I think it's also humble beginnings of what eventually became one of the most popular trilogies in cinematic history. There was a time when I was absolutely obsessed with Batman Begins. Like, The Dark Knight hadn't even come out yet. I think at that point, the only still I had was Christian Bale in the brand new Batsuit on top of a cop car. That's all I had to go off. So to me, it was always going to be Batman Begins. And then The Dark Knight came along and it was just superior. For me anyway. Now in terms of the spectacle, yeah, but because it's the next installment, I feel like you gotta up the ante, and that's what Christopher Nolan and crew had to do. Like that, it wouldn't have made sense if they went backwards. Next one comes from AJ's Figures. Halloween Ends and Kills were great. In fact, the Halloween Green trilogy is one of the best, most cohesive timelines we have gotten in a classic horror franchise. Okay, look, Halloween 2018. Absolutely love it. Halloween Kills. I had a lot of fun with it. It is nowhere near perfect or on par with Halloween 2018. Halloween Ends, I have definitely come around to appreciate a lot more if it stood on its own. And its own merit, I think it works very well as an anthology kind of spin-off, especially when it revolves around the character of Corey and Michael rocks up for a cameo every now and then, and you forget that this is a Michael Myers movie. But in terms of being cohesive, it's cohesive in its own world, in its own little bubble, and obviously it has the lineage to the original 1978 Halloween film. It's a direct sequel, Halloween 2018. I know I keep saying there's a lot of fun to be had with a lot of these movies, and that's it. If you can find the fun, if you can find the good in a shit pile, then you're doing pretty well. So I somewhat do agree, but also at the same time, it is a severely flawed trilogy, but there is a lot of fun to be had, especially like if you're smashing the whole trilogy every Halloween or every now and then, get your mates over. It is a fun romp, all three films. Like, the first one is a lot more serious. Second one is all about the effects and how far they can push it. Third one, I don't know, it's just does its own thing. Next one comes from Doug Palumbo. Temple of Doom is the best of the Indiana Jones franchise, the most true to the serial films in the series. It's supposed to represent. Okay, Temple of Doom was the first ever Indiana Jones I had ever watched. Mum showed me a bootleg tape and I absolutely loved it. I love the opening sequence in the Obi-Wan restaurant with the skewer going through the chest and just the whole heart ripping out thing. I love the whole voodoo aspect of it. And then I went back and watched Raiders and then Last Crusade. To me, I think Last Crusade is the best out of the three. That's another unpopular opinion, but I think it just wrapped everything up nicely. And then obviously we got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the fuck was the latest one called? Dial of Destiny. That shows how much I give a shit about the latest one. Next one comes from Maz Panda. Halloween 3 is great. I wish they went the anthology route. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning should also be the direction that the series should have went, in my opinion. Okay, so New Beginning, that's obviously the copycat Jason, and yeah, it definitely does work. It's not really a bad Friday the 13th film, it just obviously doesn't have Jason in it. Halloween 3, absolutely, and it's renaissance over the years. It's got its second wind, much like Elm Street 2. It stands well on its own. Obviously, at the time when it came out, people were really confused and like, what the fuck? Where's Michael? But the idea of Halloween masks killing kids on Halloween and Celtic cultish vibes going on, it's sick, it's badass. The soundtrack is banger, it's a good looking film. Tommy Lee Wallace, who was the production designer, editor, who also crafted the original Michael Myers mask on the first Halloween, directed this one, which is really cool. So it has a lot of great elements, and I totally agree. And again, it's so cool to see it renaissance and being appreciated a lot more these days. David Robinson 1737 says, under the right care, Robert Englund is replaceable as Freddy. I agree. Any character can be played by another actor as long as they aren't trying to replicate the original performance and make it their own with good writing. Jackie Earle Haley was not the issue with the Nightmare remake. I totally agree, dude. Jackie Earle Haley is a competent actor. He was just surrounded by bad writing, bad direction, and in my opinion, just not so great makeup that didn't really take advantage of his facial features. In fact, it inhibited his facial features because you are going for that realistic route of a burn victim. And with burn victims, the skin tightens, it restricts movement, so that way you don't have the persona of Freddy oozing out through Jackie's performance. He's stilted. And in terms of replacing Robert, of course you can. Robert has stated he doesn't want to play Freddy anymore, but you get an actor that knows the mythology, that takes the care and time to research the character, try and have that essence, the mannerisms, the spirit of Freddy. Try and do their own thing, but stay grounded to the roots of Mr. Krueger. Like, it's totally doable, but I also think from a physical standpoint, you have to get an actor that has a certain look, especially with that makeup on. Dr. Iron Bat Prime 2.0. Say what you want about Black Adam, but I really like it. Sure, it may not be a box office success, but the JSA were my favorite part and the best part in the movie, and The Rock nailed the character, and he is Black Adam, just like how Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark / Iron Man. To me, Black Adam just kinda came and went, and because it was in development hell for 15 years, like I remember Dwayne Johnson was cast 15 years ago. Since then, it has just gone back and forth in terms of scripts, directors, stuff like that. Finally came out, and it kind of just disappeared into the ether. And don't get me wrong, he was great as Black Adam. I loved him from a physical standpoint. He changed his acting for this one. I would have loved to have seen, you know, maybe some makeup elements that's more traditional to how Black Adam looks in the comics. The JSA were great. And Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Fuck yeah, man. Justin Scheith? Justin Scheith 9398 says, I have a soft spot for Corky Romano starring Chris Kattan. And find the movie endlessly quotable. Excellent supporting actors firing on all cylinders with great comedic timing. I have not seen Corky Romano in so bloody long. Memory serves, that's the one where he's the son of a mafia boss or part of a mafia family. I love Chris Kattan, like Night of the Roxbury, Monkey Bone, and also I think it's on SNL where he plays Mr. Peppers the monkey. It's the funniest fucking bit of physical comedy ever. He is so good. I'm gonna have to watch Corky Romano again, man. Like, obviously it's been so long, but I'm with you. I feel like it's kind of in the category of like Little Nicky, Monkey Bone as well, where it's not appreciated by a wider audience, but it has that kind of cult following. Custom Crusader says, I like the 2019 Child's Play remake more than the original. I thought the remake did a phenomenal job of doing something new and unique while still staying true to the imagery and the story of the original film. Mark Hamill was so amazing as the voice of the new Chucky. The rest of the cast and crew did a fantastic job. I like it so much, in fact, that while I still no doubt love the 1988 original, I personally prefer the remake. Interesting. That is the first time I have ever heard that. Again, there were great elements in the 2019 Child's Play remake. What the nail in the coffin for me was the design of Chucky. It just threw me completely off. It was weird, like that AI and I know it deals with AI a lot and how he's reprogrammed because a disgruntled worker was having a bad day and then topped themselves. But I like the voodoo route, and I love the design of Chucky in the original series, and I know it changed throughout the years, and they're obviously trying something different, but it was just so jarring and off-putting and just weird, really weird. But Mark Hamill voicing Chucky, absolutely brilliant. You got Aubrey Plaza, who I thought was amazing. She's amazing in anything, and she's got such a dry sense of humor. But yeah, there are a lot of good elements. The scare factor was great. There were good jump scares. The stalking that Chucky does, definitely dug it. I still don't think it's as good as the original. I actually prefer Child's Play 2 to Child's Play 1. Child's Play 1 is great, but because there was nothing before that, they didn't really know what they were doing, but it still is a great film. By the time Child's Play 2 rolled around, that's when the fun really starts for me personally. Colin Porkchop says, Val Kilmer had the perfect balance of Bruce Wayne / Batman. He's Batman? Not bad. Not bad at all. I thought his Bruce Wayne was absolutely fantastic. And speaking of Batman Forever, I hope we do get this quote-unquote Schumacher cut. Apparently it's out there in the ether. Apparently Kevin Smith has seen it. But I agree. I really dug Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne. His Batman was good. I would have liked to have seen more of his Batman. But in terms of that broody, jaded, broken Bruce Wayne / Batman, he definitely nailed it. And the fact that we may get a new cut of the film where we see more of that and explore more of Bruce's psyche, fuck yeah. Scum7795 says, when movies recast someone in a sequel and people don't mind it, it bothers me a lot. That's fair, man. Like we were talking about The Dark Knight before, when obviously in Batman Begins we had Katie Holmes as Rachel Dawes, and then with The Dark Knight we had Maggie Gyllenhaal. It was really jarring for me. I see them as separate characters. I don't see them as Rachel Dawes. When Tuesday Night replaced Patricia Arquette from Elm Street 3 to Elm Street 4, to me, they seem like separate characters. To me, that's not Kristen Parker. Kristen Parker will always be Patricia Arquette. Who else was recast? So actually, the one that did it for me where I'm like, that's fine, that makes sense, was when they recast Terrence Howard from Iron Man and replaced him with Don Cheadle. I absolutely love Don Cheadle. Don't get me wrong, Terrence Howard can be a pretty damn good actor, but it's Don Cheadle, man. Like, Don Cheadle's the fucking man. And look at the thriving timeline he had with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But yeah, I think given the circumstances and depending on the writing, it can work, and then other times it just can fall flat on its face. But also I think the physical change as well, it can be very off-putting, like your brain just doesn't like it. The Bird of Bloodhaven 8647 says, Batman and Robin is actually a good movie. It's just a modern update of the 60s show. 100%, yes, like the camp elements are there, the fact that it's a more neon, ice-induced version of the Adam West TV series and movie from back in the 60s. Sure, if you look at it through that lens, it is absolute cinematic genius. But if you're looking at it through the lens of a damn good adaptation of The Dark Knight, no. But I have so much fun with this film. I have fond nostalgia for this film. I was 9 years old when the film came out. I have owned a screen-used Robin costume at one point, so the film is very near and dear to me. I love showing people the film for the first time when they haven't seen it. Crack a few drinks open, get some Uber Eats. It's the funnest time ever, just like sitting there waiting for the reaction when something stupid happens, or Arnold does a pun like, let me guess, plant girl? Vine lady? Eh? Slimdog Millionaire _ boss says, not every Quentin Tarantino film is 10 out of 10. I agree, man. I think Inglourious Bastards is severely overrated. And then I think Jackie Brown is severely underrated. I feel Jackie Brown should get more love than Inglourious Bastards. I think when Inglourious Bastards was gearing up to come out, it was just going to be the grandiose war movie, but the fact that Tarantino was doing it, it's going to be a tour de force. I blind bought it on Blu-ray, I didn't see it at the cinemas, blind bought it on Blu-ray, watched it, and I thought, that was fucking boring. And The Hateful Eight. I think The Hateful Eight, again, like Inglourious Bastards, is severely overrated. I remember myself and two of my best mates went and watched the 70mm version here in Sydney, and they had, you know, the intermission and all that, and it was like a proper cinematic experience. And when intermission started, one bloke a few rows behind us was like, can somebody tell me what the fuck is going on in this movie? We were like, yes. Tomo2807 says, BVS is a good movie. Alien 3 is a near masterpiece. Freddys Revenge is the best nightmare movie. And someone replied, if you're not trolling us, then I definitely think you have the absolute hottest takes of any comments left thus far. That's not meant as an insult, but it is shocking. BVS is a good movie. If you just say good, nothing else, sure. Has a lot of problems, but it's not a masterpiece. But it has so much good going for it, and it could have been so fucking good. Ben Affleck is amazing. Henry Cavill is amazing. Gal Gadot's amazing. Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor. No. Alien 3 is a near masterpiece. That's a bit of a tall order, dude. Like, Aliens? Yeah, 100%. Alien 3, ugh. The making of is more of a spectacle than the film itself to me. And in terms of Freddy's Revenge being the best nightmare movie, I'm partially agreeing with that, man. To me, the first one or Dream Warriors is always going to be the best. But then, like, coming in third, Freddy's Revenge. Like, it's, again, much like Halloween 3, it is renaissance. People are embracing it now, especially the gay undertones, which I think work for the film. It stands on its own. It does its own thing. I love how dark and scary Robert's portrayal of Freddy is. Mark Patton's great in it. So yeah, I feel you on that one, man. Absolutely. Kersey NC, Battlefield Earth should have been a Tyler Perry movie. Can you imagine Medea's Battlefield Earth Adventures or something like that? Okay, so I don't know the full story with Tyler Perry, but he like has his own studio, correct? Like own soundstage. Like the guy is a fucking bajillionaire, and I know he does all the Medea movies where he dresses up as his character Medea, and you know Medea's Halloween, and Medea goes to the bank, and Medea goes somewhere nice. But can you imagine if they did Battlefield Earth starring Tyler Perry as Medea? That'd be great. Anthony Harris 191. I prefer Return of the Jedi over Empire. Yeah, see, someone replied, that's a pretty good take. I get where you come from, man. Much like how Temple of Doom was my first Indiana Jones film that I ever watched when I was a kid, Return of the Jedi was the first Star Wars film that I ever watched. And I'm like, that's it. That's amazing. And then I went back and watched Empire, and because it's, to me, it's more the adult version compared to Return of the Jedi, if that makes sense. I'm like, yeah, Empire's pretty good, and I've grown to appreciate it a lot more. But I'm always bordering on whether Return of the Jedi is my favorite or Empire. It's like Nightmare 1 and Nightmare 3. It always goes back and forth. There's so much good in Return of the Jedi, especially at the end, with the duel between Luke and Vader, and obviously what happens with them and the Emperor. I think it's heartbreaking. I think it's great. I think it's done so well. It's filmed so well, and it hits you right in the feels, especially when it's all come to this, even though we got a lot of nonsense later on. Spartan Marine 7654. I don't like The Godfather. It insists on itself. So, here's a hot take. I have not seen any of the Godfather films. I know a lot about Marlon Brando's makeup that Dick Smith did. In fact, I'm writing a bit on that for an upcoming video I'm doing, my top 10 practical makeup effects, like realistic makeup effects. So there's kind of a spoiler with who's going to be in the top 10. But yeah, I just haven't got around to them. I feel like it's so overhyped now. I'm going to watch the first and second one. I know the third one's apparently an absolute piece of shit, but apparently the second one is like the best out of all of them. But I still have to watch them. So I don't know if I'm too far gone at this point. So I'm looking at your comment and I'm like, well, do I really need to watch them now? Shiloh Barber 5753. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is just awful. Worst of the entire franchise. Oh man, come on. It's not as bad as Freddy's Dead or The Dream Child, even though I adore Freddy's Dead, but it's the thinking man's nightmare movie. Like, you know, it was 94, it was doing the meta thing before meta was really a thing. It is not perfect. I don't really overly like the design of Freddy, even though I do have a Bone Claw replica. I would have liked to have seen them do the original look of Freddy in New Nightmare, but more dilapidated and just broken down and rotted. But in terms of like what it says about Hollywood, working in Hollywood, New Line Cinema, and just the whole hustle and bustle of La La Land, I think it's great. I think Wes did a pretty good job. But in terms of it being the worst in the franchise, are you saying it's worse than the 2010 remake? Because them's fighting words. Shadow Draman 01, Michael Myers is overrated. Get out. But my next question to you, which Michael Myers or Michael Myers as a whole? Are we talking original 78, the Thorn trilogy, Rob Zombies, the David Gordon Green one, Halloween Resurrection? I don't know. And finally, we're going to finish up with one from Cinematic Tendency. The original Star Wars trilogy is cool, but that's it. Nothing amazing. We got 2 replies. I never was able to get into it. I've tried a few times. I've seen the movies and they are cool and stuff, but for some people, it's a religion. Yes, I get it. It's an absolute religion, much like Star Trek, much like Harry Potter. Like for me, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, that is my religion. Going back and watching them recently, I've got the Blu-ray collection. I went back and watched the original trilogy. They can be a bit of a slog. They can be a bit slow at times, but I think it's more or less about humble beginnings. Seeing all this tech being developed at the time, whether it be the practical stuff and then the special effects that were groundbreaking at the time. I think it's 3 nice pieces of this is where it started and this is how it's going now. Even though certain things from the original trilogy hold up much better than some elements in the brand new Star Wars films, which says a lot. I think that's where I draw a lot of appreciation for with the original trilogy. It's just how groundbreaking they were. And you have so many amazing moments in there, but in terms of it being the best trilogy ever, but you have so many cool characters, so many cool character designs, props, weapons, stuff like that. Things that will stand the test of time for a very long time and still be spoken about for a very long time. There we have it, guys. Some unpopular opinions on movies, movie characters and stuff like that. An absolute ball doing this one. Again, this is going to be my last video in this space. Chloe and I are moving tomorrow, so the next video you're going to see after this one is going to be in the brand new setup. Let me know in the comments down below what other like hot takes, unpopular opinions, or something like that you'd like me to post about, and then I can react to your comments, because I love doing videos like this. It's more personal, kind of just like shoot the shit with you guys. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.